But in a transaction market, sellers want last month's price, buyers want next month's price. So you see that bid-ask spread where the market's a little bit frozen and it's going to figure itself out, we think, over the next few months.
Joining me today is Mark Parrell, President and CEO of Equity Residential. What leasing trends have emerged at Equity Residential so far this year, and what are you anticipating for the rest of 2022?
I mean, it's really been quite amazing. We've had a supercharged leasing season, we're calling it so far. So right now, occupancy in the portfolio across our 80,000 units in coastal markets and the new interior markets that we've added to the portfolio is 97%. We've raised rents year to date 10%. We usually would raise them 5% by now. So very strong, providing great service to our residents. So retaining 60% of our residents, which again is above average, and those residents are accepting 10% rent increases, and new residents are having 20% rent increases. So we've really fully recovered from the pandemic and are moving through and forward. So the business feels really outstanding at this point.
Can you outline the company's 2022 acquisition strategy, and will you focus more on core or expansion markets?
So our company for the last few years has been selling some of the portfolio in places like New York City, central Washington, D.C., so in the District of Columbia, as well as parts of California, just lightening our regulatory load, balancing the portfolio, and buying in places like Atlanta, Austin, Dallas, and Denver, where some of our more affluent residents, we really cater to an affluent resident demographic. So folks that make, in our case, an average of $166,000 a year. They work in technology fields, they work in financial fields, and they've been folks that have really flocked back to the cities as cities have reopened. And so we followed them to some of these interior cities. So we've been buying and selling and about evenly matching that exposure. So we've added again in Atlanta, Austin, Dallas, and Denver, and in some of the suburbs of those markets as well. Right now it's very interesting. The transaction markets have become dislocated a bit. Very common for that to occur when there's a big shift in the financial markets. Interest rates are up significantly. There's a lot of thought about the economy slowing. So we see that in the transaction market. The operating business, we don't see it. No cracks, it feels great. But in a transaction market, sellers want last month's price, buyers want next month's price. So you see that bid-ask spread where the market's a little bit frozen and it's going to figure itself out, we think, over the next few months.
What are some tenant-focused trends that you're watching at this time?
Space and technology. So when you think about space, if you came to visit us at one of our properties at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday before the pandemic, you would have still seen people working remotely. So that was part of our world even before the pandemic. It's even more true now. So people want space both in their unit as well as, so our units that have balconies, that have alcoves, that have dens are more popular than a small, say, studio unit alone. And those spaces outside the unit, those common area spaces, those roof decks, that's at a premium. So space is certainly really important. As we do development, as we do renovation, we're really adding as much space as we can. The other thing is technology. They like the keyless entry door locks. Those also help us with expense management. It's easier for our people to get in and service units and do things like that as well. Remote thermostat access, so again, which is terrific on the sustainability side, so you can better control your energy costs in vacant units for us, as well as the resident can in the occupied units, and a number of other technologies. So really it's been that technology, how they interact with us and with their unit, and just wanting more space both inside and outside the unit.
Mark, as you meet with investors, what would you cite as 3 top reasons to invest in Equity Residential today?
The themes we've been talking about already and plan to talk about the next few days here, that sort of supercharged cash flow we talked about, that growth over the next year and a half or 2 years, really is going to be outstanding. And we think that's one reason, along with your trading, our company is, and a lot of the apartment REITs are at a pretty significant discount. So you get to net asset value. So you get a really wonderful discounted purchase price, great cash flow growth that'll lead to dividend growth. Second, we really like our demographics. There's 4.3 million people that'll turn 18 every year for the rest of the decade. Those folks, those Generation Z people, we think have similar housing preferences, will want to live in our well-amenitized buildings across the country. So you got them coming in. And the millennials, who really now are starting to get close to 40 years old as a group and should be moving out by practice, because people are marrying later, they're having fewer children if they're having children at all. Housing has gotten, single-family owned housing has gotten so much more expensive. We were retaining those people longer. So we love that demand picture. We feel great about that. And a final factor is the word on everyone's mind, if it isn't recession, it's inflation, right? And there's real concerns about what that does. Well, we repriced our leases annually. So our ability to match that, and we've done very well managing expenses. So we think we're a great cash flow play in the short term. We like our demographics in the long haul. We think that'll drive demand. And we think as an inflation matter, we're a very good inflation hedge.